I call it the Phillips Law of Suck. It's a family curse.
Hello. Welcome to the Hard Reset. What just happened?
Well, don't start out your kayaking experience like I did. Are we?
No. How should I start out my kayaking experience?
Let me tell you. All right.
Yes, please tell me.
All right. I'm going to tell you a story about this little kayaking fiasco that I had.
This should be good.
Yeah. How I started out. Again, man, I told you I'm like a shit magnet or something.
Oh, hey.
Like I just things happen to me, right? So I got on this kick. This is like probably like 5 or 6 years ago. I got on this kick where I wanted, I wanted to start kayaking or whatever. Water would get low. It'd get real hot outside, evaporate a lot of the stuff, and the temperatures would get real low or get real high or whatever. And the water would get real low, like literally like a couple inches of water. Mm-hmm. And so you were dragging your canoe, this big old canoe everywhere, right? So at one point, I can't remember where we rented them from someplace. Campgrounds had kayaks.
Yeah.
So I think it started with, we had a friend of ours that came in from out of town and he wanted to go kayak or he wanted to go canoeing. And we said, hey, since we're just like a bunch of dudes, we can all get our own kayaks, right? Like that way it's fun. You can drink, do whatever you want to do, right? Yeah. You're on your own kayak. That way, if you flip your kayak, you're not messing up the other dudes in the canoe with you, right? Because you maybe had too much to drink and you get a little heavy head and fall out of the canoe or whatever, right? So we rent these kayaks. Well, they turn out to be freaking amazing. They literally will float in like a couple inches of water, and they're so light that if you do have to pull, in other words, drag them across like some rocks or whatever it is when the water gets low, it's super lightweight. So it's basically the kayaks are a lot lighter, and then like we pull them in and out. We have different entry and exit points that we put them in the water and we pull them out that are not necessarily like rental places that we pull them out or whatever. We have our own spots that we get out. So I got on this kick. I was like, these things are amazing. So I said, okay, I'm going to buy my own kayaks. Right. Yeah. Well, I start looking around at these and I'm like, I'm going to buy a couple kayaks, but like I was looking at all these kayaks and they were like $600-$700. They were like all these fancy, what do you call them? Like the angler kayaks where you could fish off of them.
Yeah, and a lot of them have like the paddles and stuff. Oh yeah,
too. Well they're like the sky's the limit, dude. Like they have like live wells, you can put fish in them, like all this kind of stuff. Yeah, I'm like, what?
Like full blown fishing boats.
Yeah, so I'm like, I just want something simple and cheap, right? Well, at the time I was getting these coupons, like emails.
Wait, you're doing like Groupon?
No.
What's going on there?
Somewhere along the line, I signed up for one of those, like the mailing or the email flyers or whatever they would give you coupons from, in this case, it's from Dunham's, which is like the local sporting goods store, right?
That's a good sports store.
So they were sending me these coupons. Well, literally, it was like, it was like your phone was listening to you. Cause like the minute I said that, I get this email from Dunham's and I open it up and there's like these $200 kayaks or like, I think they're normally like $200, $220, something like that. And they have them on sale for $150.
Dude, that's a bargain.
So I was like, I can buy 2 of those things, right?
Dude, you should have got like 20 of those things.
I know. Well, at the time I'm like, I'm into it, but I want to see how into it I am, like when I'm physically buying my own kayak. Right. Okay. But at the time they were charging like literally like $50 a trip to rent them. Right. So I'm thinking to myself, I can justify, buying one of those because that's 3 trips that I would rent. That's $150. And I literally do $150 one time. Right. And I own this thing. I can go as many trips as I want. I'm not paying all those rental fees. Right. Well, at the time, again, because I'm cheap, and I've said this in a previous podcast, but I only ever buy one new vehicle. I never get more than one car payment. It's my rule that I've done since I was in the Army.
You know what? That's brilliant. And I think a lot of Americans, actually a lot of people on this planet should
trust me. Well, I mean, for us, it makes sense. I always had a nice car for the wife because she had the kids and she's running them around. Right. I like beater cars, so it's perfect for me because I like beater cars.
I'm the beater king. If it's newer than 20 years old, I probably won't buy it.
Yeah, I don't understand the hype. So I like old beater 4-wheel drives and stuff, right? Oh, yeah. Well, at the time I had it was a Suzuki Vitara. It was like a 2003 or something, which is basically like their little sport utility version, but it's almost like a Suzuki Samurai, but a little more modern. Yeah. So it was like fuel injected or whatever. It was a 2.0 4-cylinder, but it's still like, then got like 40 miles a gallon or something. And it's 4-wheel drive. It would go anywhere. But it's not a big vehicle, right? It's like the size of like a Honda CRV or something, right? I'm like, man, I'm buying these things. But I didn't have a truck at the time. So I'm like, how am I going to get these things from Dunham's? So I'm like, I'm going to go on Amazon and I'm going to buy roof racks, like the kayak mounts.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Right. And I'm going to put them on top of it and it's going to look super cool. And I'm going to put these kayaks on top of my Suzuki Vitara.
You know, the funny part about the roof racks for kayaks is they look cool when there's not kayaks on the roof rack.
Yes.
I might sound like a complete idiot when I say this, but any vehicle that has a roof rack, you know, they mean business and they're doing something really awesome.
Yeah.
But
well, it looked very adventurous. Let's say that.
That's what I meant.
Yes.
It looks adventurous.
So I buy these like $30 cheap Amazon kayak racks, which basically they're kind of these U-shaped things, right? And you mount them on top of your roof rack, or or like the crossbars that go across your thing, right?
Uh-huh.
Well, I was smart. I did my research, and I said, they said if you put a kayak on it, you want to tie down the front and the back end of the kayak. You want to basically tie them down to the bumpers, right? So it won't slide around on this kayak or whatever, fly off, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I thought I did my due diligence and I, research or whatever. So I bought some 550 cord, like some orange 550 cord. I made up all these tie downs or whatever. So we go there. I'm all excited. We drive all the way to Dunham's. We buy these kayaks or whatever.
You know what? That's actually a lot of people don't understand. When you become an adult, that's when you start buying cord. That's when you buy.
You got to buy cordage, dude.
You do.
Yeah.
That's part of this, like, manhood.
I got my man card that day. So I drive to Dunham's. I go in there. They basically, the only ones they had was upstairs. So it was like some 18-year-old girl had to drag these things down from some, beyond storage upstairs or whatever in this big plastic bags or whatever, drag them all the way through the store to me. I'm all excited. We get them outside. We pull the big old bag off of them. We slap them up there. I'm all proud. I do all these tie downs and all this kind of stuff on it, right? I didn't anticipate that it was a windy day. And I'm talking like real windy. Well, these were 10.5 foot kayaks, and you put them on these roof rack. In order to center it up, it winds up having like, basically 4 or 5 feet or 3 feet or something over the front, 3 feet over the back of these kayak racks, right? And it's all tied down. It looks like some kind of Beverly Hillbillies contraption or something,
Oh, hey.
It did not look cool or adventurous at all. It looked like an abomination. It was all these strings going everywhere. I didn't know what I was doing, right? So I had my son with me. He was like, I think he was probably maybe like 12 or something at the time. He's always down for my adventures, right? So we start driving back. And
he's always down.
Well, he's always forced to be with let's say that, for my adventures, right?
That sounds better.
We start going down. Well, for a little backstory, between Crawfordsville, Indiana and Brazil, Indiana, if you go down 59, there's large tracts of like commercial farmer areas where it's large open areas.
Like huge tracts of land.
Huge tracts of land. And it's on both sides of the road, right? So these large open areas, and wherever it was like in springtime, it was like in the springtime when we bought these things. So there was no crops up yet. So in other words, the fields were all flat. So we're driving, we get to about Waveland, which is, maybe like the quarter of the way or whatever. And I'm talking like we're in the woods, more or less, driving through these, the road that goes between the woods before you get to Waveland. And I'm already feeling this thing and it's trying to throw me all over the place. What I found out was I basically put 2 wings on the top of my, my 1,500 pound Suzuki Vitara, right?
Excellent.
So we turn. And I'm like, I was kind of offhandedly joking with my son saying, man, this steering wheel kind of feels light or whatever. Like it was visibly like lightened or whatever. So we turn, we go we're about halfway at this point. Well, this is about the time where I go into those huge tracts of land that I'm talking about that are big, giant open fields. We're running the speed limit, 55 mile an hour, which is, that's in that little Suzuki Vitara. It's like you're the door gunner on the space shuttle launch. That's like maximum speed for that vehicle or something.
The door gunner on a space shuttle. That's got to be awesome.
Yeah. So it's pretty sketchy anyways on a good day with sunshine and prevailing winds. Right. So I had these 2 giant Wright brother wings, like biplane wings, strapped to the top of my Suzuki Vitara. I hit these open fields. Well, it's a huge crosswind that's coming across these things. And I immediately go into panic mode because it's literally picking me up and trying to throw me either into the ditch or into the other oncoming lane at 55 miles an hour. So as I'm trying to basically hold my steering wheel and not get launched off into these giant cutout ditches that they have alongside to the road, all at once, I can only explain what sounds like the reentry of the space shuttle when the heat shields are getting too much and stuff starts flaking off of them. I can hear nuts and bolts being stripped and pings and whatever. Well, about this time, my new kayak, not my son's, we'd already picked them out. My cool new lime green kayak proceeds to launch off in front of me, in front of the car, and goes bouncing down to the center of the road at, faster than what I'm driving. So apparently somewhere along the line, it increased speed. And we're basically chasing behind it in my car. And then it goes off and it launches off into the cutout ditch next to the road. So now naturally I'm upset because I'm like, man, this thing's probably like road rash to hell, dude. Well, and they're not really thick. So again, I worry about, basically, putting holes in it or whatever. So I spin around. As I'm turning around, the whole roof rack falls off of the top of the vehicle. Right. I now have like these floppy strings that must have broke loose.
Hey, you know what, Clark? That sounds like a quality item.
It was my $30 Amazon roof racks. Don't buy those. Okay. Spring for the $50 ones. Okay. So I spin around and we have to pull alongside this, this road and there's cars going by. Here's what adds insult to injury. Me and my son have to run down in the ditch real quick and try to pick this kayak up. Well, first I have to try to put together in the pieces of this kayak rack that launched off, the actual rack itself, so I can put the kayak back in it. Mm-hmm. And so I like hodgepodge this thing together and with, some tools or whatever I had in the car. I get it all down. Cars were going by me, about to hit me or whatever. We go down, we get the kayak, and me and my son pick it up. And as we're walking up there, some guy in some beater ass Honda Civic comes by and screams fucking pussies as he drives by. You can bleep that out if you want later on. Calls us fucking pussies.
That's funny because you know what? Normally I would not censor or edit anything we say, but you said the word pussies. So I have to.
Dude, these guys, it was like the knife in my heart. Like everything else had gone wrong at this point, and it was like literally insult to injury. I'm coming up the hill. My new kayak is scuffed all to hell.
And you got called a vagina.
And the guy slows down and he's in the Honda Civic has like 4 different colored panels.
That's just
He's awesome. In a beater car himself and he's calling me an F and P or whatever.
You're a vagina.
As I go by or whatever. So that was a low point. That was a low point in my life. So we managed to basically restrap this thing on there. We have to go side roads. So I'm literally at that point, I'm not driving over like 30 miles an hour the whole rest of the way home. It takes us like an additional hour or something to get home. I get home. My son's laughing at me, which in turn made me mad. He's laughing at me because my kayak is like this. It's like road rashed or whatever, all to hell on both ends. My brand new kayak I was all proud of. So we managed to unload them or whatever. We've obviously had awesome experience since. And I finally just retired that one just because I've wore holes in it, or whatever. I said, I have a nice little sticker on the back of it. It says something about, I hear banjos, all that kind of stuff. Oh dear,
paddle faster.
Yeah. Paddle faster. I hear banjos. Yeah. So that's my kayaking story. That's my initial foray into buying kayaks or whatever it flew off my top of my car and I got called a F and P and so
that's pretty rock and roll.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing is I call it the Phillips Law of Suck. It's a family curse. The Phillips Law of Suck goes like this. For every good thing that happens to you, get new kayaks. Something equally bad has to happen to you after the good thing. Kayak launches off, road rashes down the road, get called names by some guy in some beater car. That your kayak is probably more expensive than the Honda Civic that he's driving in, calls you out, right? That is the Phillips Law of Suck. But here's the thing is I'm relentlessly upbeat. So I'm like the Joe Dirt, Joe Dirte, fucking life's a garden, dig it, right?
No, you know what?
Keep